Are you ready?
Ready.
All right, let's go. Kevin here, top 1 financial advisor and best-selling author. We are here to talk about the stock market. In today's video, I'm going to break down how I decide when it is time for me to sell a company. I'm going to do it in case study fashion, meaning I'm going to show you an actual stock that I own and walk you through my thought process as we go through it. Now, I've done some of these videos in the past where I just kind of generally list out the things that I'm looking at, but it's June now, and at the end of June, this is when I go and look at my portfolio, my kids' portfolio, and we all say, look, what is it that we need to get rid of? What stocks do we need to pick up? And this is the time of the year where we start to make those major adjustments. This is the time for me to sit down and say, look, Ulta Beauty, you had a rough earnings period. Should I continue to hold? Someone asked me the other day, I own SJM, that is the Smucker's company. They do peanut butter and jelly and all kind of stuff. It has not made me money. Is this time for me to let it go? And what are the things I look at? So I'm going to do this and give you visual examples on what I'm looking at. But there are 3 primary things. First, anytime I'm considering selling, I take the stock's performance over the last 6 months and over the last year. I compare it to what the S&P 500 is doing. The main reason why I do this, and I think everybody should do this, is because I could have taken on less risk by having an index fund. The only reason that I take on more risk by owning just a few individual stocks is because I think they can do better than the stock market. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it, right? I want to be rewarded for that risk, just like I invest in NVIDIA. It was worth it, right? Apple, Microsoft, Google, all these companies this year, it was worth the risk. So I expect all of my stocks to be at or better than the S&P 500. Is that going to happen 100% of the time? Absolutely not. But that's the first place that I look. If it's under the S&P 500, then I'm going to steps 2 and 3 to determine whether or not I'm going to continue holding it, or even if I'm going to buy more, or am I going to sell it and go ahead and take those losses. The second thing I'm looking at is, why is it down? There has to be a reason, usually, why that stock is down. Now, in my case, in Ulta Beauty, the answer is not very clear, and I'll show you this here on the screen. They announced earnings, I think it was earlier this week, no, actually last week, and it dropped double digits. Now, at the time that they did this, Ulta said that they saw a double-digit increase in revenue. They made more money than they have in the past, or than they did over the last period. Things are fine at Ulta Beauty. They even increased their guidance, saying, we expect to make even more money this year than what we had expected. We're going to increase our expectations. And the stock dropped. Now that to me says it's a good company. They were beating the S&P 500 before, but for whatever reason, the market acted weirdly. So that to me says, hey, it was just a bad day for the company. If they continue on their winning ways, they will probably get back to normal. So that's a check in my direction and say, look, I'm probably going to keep it, because honestly, if it weren't for that one bad day, the stock would have continued to beat the S&P 500. And here in the future, a month, 2 months from now, perhaps things will repair themselves. So that's the second check. Okay, did you beat the S&P 500? Yes or no? And if not, why? What is the case here? Another example is Target. Target is going through a whole bunch of culture war issues. That's not for me to discuss, but it's a weird situation. But also, why was Target down before? Target has been down since the end of 2021, and that was due to inflation and inventory issues. So you had that, which drug the stock down in all of 2022. Then you got all these issues in 2023. So to me, if I were on a Target, which I did, I sold it a long time ago. And it's that why factor. It did not beat the S&P 500. It wasn't close. And when I looked into why, and we've had a whole video on this, I said your inventory issues, how you're managing things, it wasn't going well. And what I did at that point in time, which is another thing that you should do, is compare it to what else is out there. And back then with Target, same way I would look at Ulta, same thing I'm going to look at Smucker's. I'm going to see who are your competitors and how are they performing. Is it just you? Is it just you, Target? Is it just you, Ulta? Or is it everybody in this category? The same thing I would do if I own AutoZone or O'Reilly's or even Advanced Auto Parts that we had talked about yesterday. Advanced Auto Parts and O'Reilly's, they're fine. But Advanced Auto Parts is not, right? I'm comparing the two. Advanced Auto Parts did not beat the S&P 500. When I'm trying to figure out why, it's because apparently they don't run their business the same way that everybody else does, and they are that outlier. So I get rid of the outlier when it's on the negative end. The last thing that I want to look at is it undervalued or overvalued? Okay, now undervalued means that I think the stock is worth, in Ulta's case, I think the stock is worth somewhere between $700 and $800, right? And the last time I checked, if I'm not mistaken, it's around $400 a share. well, if I can buy something at 400, I think it is worth 800, and I think that it just had a bad day just because of earnings. To me, that says I can continue buying. That says, hey, it just had a bad day. It's still undervalued. I'm going to continue buying and holding on to it. Perhaps in the next 6 months, perhaps in the next year, I'll really start to see that return. That is how I would view it. So it's really how well are you doing versus the S&P 500. If it's down, why is it down? Is it something that's temporary? What are its competitors doing? And then is it overvalued or undervalued? Now, what if you own something that you consider overvalued? What if I own something and I'm at $100 a share, right? But it's only worth, let's just throw something out there, 20. Well, in that case, I'm saying, look, if I've already made my profit, keyword if I've already made my profit and it's starting to kind of tail down a bit, I'll say, all right, let me just take my profit and move on somewhere else. And the reason why that is because we all don't know what the future is going to hold, but you never go broke taking a profit. Okay, I'd rather take my money off the table and say, great, I made my money, I'm going to take it and move on, as opposed to just continuously holding something I feel is overvalued. I'm not sure what is going to happen next. One example here with NVIDIA. NVIDIA, for me, I think you guys saw it on Twitter. You also get an email here. I'm kind of walking through that. I had it at $139 a share. Okay, now I need to go back and see whether I think it's overvalued or undervalued, just re-upping my analysis on it. But I gotta figure out, I've already beaten the S&P 500. Should I take my money off the table? This is something I need to consider, because likely, if I paid $139 a share and it's going towards $400 a share, I've probably got my fill, right? So I need to decide, should I take some of my money off the table or all of it? But that is something that I would consider. If it's overvalued and you've gotten your gain, which I have in this case, it's okay to lock in some of that and say, look, let me just go ahead. I've made my money. I'm going to take a little bit off the table and go invest it somewhere else or enjoy it or whatever it is your investing goal is. But those are the 3 things that you want to take a look at. If you are somebody that is trying to figure out, well, how do I know if something is overvalued or undervalued or what the price should be? We talk about this Insider Members Only. I have an entire spreadsheet, you can call it a calculator if you will, that can help give you a guideline on that. And this is what I use. In the Members Only, we talk about this all the time. I put out a post about a stock the other day about Marvell and what I thought about it using that analysis and kind of my own expertise and background in that space as well. But that's the process. And the thing is, it's not always just a flip of the coin or something that's like super easy just to immediately figure out. But it is a process that is important because, one, it can save you money by avoiding bad situations and locking in gains, but also to help you to figure out, like, hey, it might be time for me to cut my losses. When I invested in Target, this was a year and some change ago, I had to let that go. And I took that loss, right? The exact same thing when we talked about PayPal and Square. When I held those, thank God I got rid of them because they're down 60-70% from where they were back in 2021. You got to take those losses sometimes. Disney is another example. Now, Disney is, I don't know where it is in 2023, but from the end of 2021 and all of 2022, Disney was awful. Guess who let go of it early? This is the power of being able to do that and saying, look, I've given myself 6 months, I've given myself a year, and these periodic periods, or these periodic times rather, to come back and review and say, did you beat the S&P 500? No, you didn't. Are you, like, why are you down? Like, what's going on here? Are you great at what you do? Is something happening in that space? And then what is your value, right? Are you living up to what we think your value is and how that fits with everything else? So those are the things that you should look at. Let me know if you have any questions. Hopefully that does help. If it doesn't, y'all know how to reach me. Let me know in the comments if we can re-explain it and give more visual details if needed. All right, that is it for me today. I will talk to y'all on Monday. Bye.